Politics is full of surprises, no question. But some things are just straight up rare. Like an opposition leader whose party didn't win the right to govern in the last election, who lost his own seat in the riding he held for 20 years, now back on the political front lines.
To anyone who has been knocked down, but has got back up and kept on going, you haven't given up, so I won't give up.
Pierre Poilievre's by-election win was largely seen as a foregone conclusion. But the road ahead will mean figuring out who he wants to show to Canadians as he steps back into the House of Commons as opposition leader. And that could mean taking a deep look in the mirror. Let me explain. Mark Carney's Liberal government has taken actions that, well, wouldn't sound unusual coming from a Conservative government.
Mark Carney is now officially on the job, and already he's made his first big move, scrapping the controversial consumer carbon tax.
One of the signature promises of the Carney government is bringing down internal trade barriers within Canada.
Our government is in the process of unleashing $500 billion of investment in energy infrastructure, port infrastructure, particularly intelligence infrastructure as well.
These were the kinds of economic and cost of living announcements that were a major plank of the Conservatives during the campaign. And you can see that in their platform. Build critical infrastructure faster, boost interprovincial trade within 30 days of taking office, and of course, axe the carbon tax.
The effort to get these big nation-building projects going, more energy that's being exported to the world, more energy that's moving across the country. Those are things, too, that are some pretty traditional Conservative turf.
So a bit of thunder stolen means Poilievre may have to pivot.
I think the effort over the next few months will be to establish that line of attack, differentiating and better positioning the Conservatives from the Liberals. And I think that's going to involve quite a lot of experimentation.
So to some extent, that puts them in a position where what they bring to the table is going to be, are you doing this the right way, right? Is it going to work? Is it happening quickly enough?
We've already seen hints of that. Poilievre going after issues the Liberals haven't been as vocal on, and that he sees many in his Conservative base and beyond caring deeply about.
If someone commits a crime when they're here as a visitor, we want them to do a sentence in prison and then get the hell out of Canada. We don't want to keep criminals in our streets.
Differentiating from a Carney government isn't the only thing he needs to do. As we've seen over the years, Poilievre is a fiery opposition voice, well-practiced on lines of attack.
We will oppose any attempts by his government to raise taxes on working people or seniors in this country. Mark Carney, while he made grand promises of change, he's even worse than Justin Trudeau.
But attack mode may not be the best play, especially now. President Donald Trump's attacks on Canada, from calling it the 51st state to waves of off-again, on-again tariffs, if nothing else, it's rallied leaders across parties, and it became a key part of the Liberals' campaign fortunes.
We're going to have our elbows up, our noses to the grindstone, we're going to roll up our sleeves, and we're going to make the greatest country in the world even better.
Importantly, experts say addressing the anxiety around Trump's attacks was missing from the Poilievre campaign.
Mark Carney and the Liberals, day in and day out, were talking about, how Canada was going to stand up to Donald Trump and stand up to the U.S. tariffs. And really, Pierre Poilievre tried to avoid talking about Donald Trump at all, if he could.
Doug Ford was on cable television in the U.S. A lot of people have gone on cable television in the U.S. to push back against this. Pierre Poilievre never did.
And even now, with ongoing negotiations and an unpredictable opponent, it's still causing anxiety. And that puts an opposition party in a difficult position.
I think the expectation is to, rally around, support the leader, stay behind the common national line.
We've seen that from Ontario Conservative Premier Doug Ford, who criticized Poilievre's election campaign for not pivoting to focus on tariffs and Trump. And again, last week, he had this to say.
What's your advice to him going into the fall sitting of the Parliament?
Work with the Prime Minister.
How so?
Let's team Canada. Let's put our political stripes aside and start working together.
I don't think it's really an issue that the Conservatives can win as much as it's an issue that they manage. They sort of survive.
So maybe you'd think, okay, look tougher on Donald Trump. tap into that national fervor. Except, keep in mind that many of the issues that Trump champions with his US voter base, suspicion of establishment politics, fixing a broken economy, tackling broken immigration, that all resonates with some voters here too. Polls like this ECOS one from May show a rise of these views among Canadians, from not trusting the establishment, feeling the economy isn't working for them, and a record rise in opposing immigration among Conservatives. And notably, it found that Canadians who share these views, they see Trump 2.0 as a good thing.
There's a good chunk of Conservative voters who actually like Donald Trump. They like the way he approaches things. And so Pierre Poilievre needs to find a way to talk to Canadians who are, by and large, quite angry with Donald Trump, but also to talk to the Conservative base. And there's that subset of people who are not angry.
And we've seen a hint of how he may walk this tightrope by turning attention to how badly he thinks the Carney government is handling Trump.
Where are Mark Carney's elbows these days? He seems to have misplaced them.
But there's a bigger motivation here.
If I were Prime Minister today, we would be building from a position of strength.
Another test facing Pierre Poilievre is a leadership review in January. It's Conservative Party policy to have one after an election loss where the leader doesn't step down. But he's expected to pass that easily, so far at least.
There is nobody out there right now openly challenging his leadership. There's no one saying that they think a change is needed at the top in a super vocal way from within the party.
But securing the party leadership isn't the prize. Remember, for all the surprises that April's election brought, it's still a minority government. Meaning Poilievre has to do more than be a combative opposition leader. He's got to give future prime minister vibes.
It is possible that Pierre Poilievre won't have years to rebuild and to reset his message, but rather 1 year or even less than that. And I think he's going to have to figure out a way to present himself to Canadians in a way that's different.
And there are 2 points to make here: how Canadians see him and how he wants to be seen. Take a look at some recent polling that gives you a sense of Canadian opinion. Abacus data surveyed nearly 2,000 people, asking them about what they want out of a prime minister. When rating Carney versus Poilievre, Carney did better on things like being calm and steady during uncertain times, and avoiding unnecessary conflict. The Angus Reid Institute also surveyed 2,000 people, and among those who voted Conservative in the last election, most still want Poilievre to lead the party into the next one. But among a more general population, more than half found him insincere, and only 36% consider him likable. But that's just 2 polls, and only a snapshot in time. The other big factor right now for Poilievre, striking the right tone.
Look, being the leader of the opposition is kind of managing Jekyll and Hyde all in one, all inside yourself. And I think Pierre Poilievre is going to have to figure out how that works. That doesn't mean he can't criticize Mark Carney. Doesn't mean he shouldn't criticize Mark Carney. But I think he's going to have to work on the tonality of that.
Poilievre in recent days has been trying to find the balance between critic and next in line.
We also continue to extend our hand to Prime Minister Carney to work together to get a good deal with the Americans. Now, it's too costly for builders to build, buyers to buy, or sellers to sell. An almost impossible triumvirate of failure in housing hell that only a Liberal Prime Minister could have accomplished.
On the one hand, I think he's really making an effort to seem constructive, to sound like a Prime Minister in waiting. At the same time, the way that people know Pierre Poilievre is he's scrappy, right? He's a fighter, and we certainly are still hearing that tone from him with some frequency.
So as Pierre Poilievre gets back to the opposition bench in the House of Commons, the real work for the top job is only just beginning.